It's your girl JB, and we're gonna talk about high lift versus lightener. So what is high lift? High lift is a permanent color that lifts and tones natural hair in a single application. So rather than performing a bleach and tone, the artist can lift the client and tone them in one process. Now don't get me wrong, not all high lifts are the same, but predominantly high lifts use the first 15 to 20 minutes after application to lighten the hair. The next 20 minutes is when the color begins to tone the hair that was just lightened. So this is usually suitable for clients that are usually a level 6 and up, but luckily there is one exception with highly textured hair. Though highly textured hair, we know that is very versatile, has high porosity, so it can vary in density, but the key exceptions are the raised cuticles that we discussed earlier. So because of the raised cuticles and high porosity, the color would adhere better. So we also know that the diameter of the strand is rather fine, making it an easier candidate to lift. Okay, you see where I'm going with this? All right. So as stated in previous episodes, when we lighten hair, we are removing the melanin and eumelanin of the hair. It's easier to remove that when the hair is fine and porous, but you must be cognizant of the hair's integrity. That's where the consultation comes in, right? We talked about that too. So rather than opting for lightener, if your client has virgin hair, then you can select to high lift. One, it's gonna keep the hair's integrity, and two, it's gonna help to control the lightening process. And if you still ask why, I think it's important to understand the level and the tone that you would like to achieve before reaching for either lightener or high lift. High lift is going to be less harsh than lightener, which is always going to be best for the integrity of the hair. You know we got to preserve those curls because the curly girls do not play, all right? A lot of colors can be achieved with high lift, including blending and fantasy colors, depending on the level and tone. So when the goal is level 8 to 10, then that's when you're going to opt to use the lightener to achieve those results. Let's see how the developer plays a role, right? So we understand that the higher the developer, the more hydrogen peroxide, which is the active ingredient that determines how much of the cuticle will be opened and how much will lighten the hair. So determining the amount of lift that you need to achieve your desired look will help you to decide which developer, and how you will select a developer is all depending on timing. Right? So to keep it simple, 6 volume for color is deposit only, and with lightener, it's the slowest developer. 10 volume with color gives 1 level of lift, and with lightener, 1 times faster. 20 volume for color gives 2 levels of lift, and with lightener, 2 times faster. 30 volume for color gives up to 3 levels of lift, and with lightener will be 3 times faster. 40 volume for color gives up to 4 levels of lift, and with lightener will be 4 times faster. Now when working with high lift, you want to make sure you're using 30 to 40 volume to maximize the amount of lift that you can achieve. High lift can reach up to 4 levels of lift depending on the client's hair. So let's talk about time, because you know, time is money. Processing time is going to be a very important part of the coloring process. When dealing with permanent colors, we often get the question, how long do I have to let the hair color sit before rinsing it out? Well, the answer is you always let the dye sit for at least 35 minutes from the moment you've finished applying all the color to all the sections of the hair. After 45 minutes, the dye loses its effect, so it's no use in letting it sit on any longer anyways. So what's the processing time for hair dye? Of course, the user manual explains how to apply the dye and for how long it must sit. But if you've never dyed hair before, you can start doubting yourself. Maybe you take too long to apply the dye, or when you finally finish dyeing the last strands, the dye in the first strands had already processed for 35 minutes. Then what? Don't even worry about it. The 35 minutes of processing time starts when you've finished applying the dye to all of your hair. So when you've dyed the very last strands of your hair, you let the dye in all of your hair sit for 35 minutes. Do you have gray hair or are you using an ash color? In that case, make sure you let the dye sit for 45 minutes.